This episode of the Sloopcast brought to you by The Ozone. The Ozone Radio Network, just the general existence of The Ozone. You can check out all sorts of great stuff from the guys over there, Tony Gerdeman, Tom Orr, Shannon Summers, just to name a few. You can find all of your latest, greatest, best Buckeye stuff over at theozone.net. This episode of the Sloopcast also brought to you by you. The people who donate to this podcast and any potential sponsors out there listening to this podcast. We would love to be sponsored by someone local, maybe someone who makes beer, because we like to talk about beer on this podcast, or anything really. We've had previous sponsors from t-shirt companies, from IT companies, from ticket sellers. We're open to most things. That's not true. There are several industries we would turn away. I'm going to stop talking now, and let's start the show. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm not going to take it slow like how you did it there.
I don't blame you.
I'm doing well. All right.
Okay. I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay, actually. We have so much to get to today, which is a lie. That's a lie. But we've definitely gathered, and I think the phrase we were using before we started the show is I think we squeezed all the blood out of this week.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. Yeah. There's pretty... This is the dead zone of sports right now.
Yeah, we were talking about NBA, the wasteland before.
This is the dead zone. This is the dead zone of sports. You got baseball going on, and MLS if you're interested in that. There is some national soccer going along if you're into soccer still, but other than that, nothing.
What's baseball?
Something we don't talk about here.
Not only do we not talk about it, we don't watch it, follow it. What's baseball? Anyway, yeah, dead zone. We've gone from wasteland into dead zone, which is at the point in the wasteland in which you die. Is that yes. The nomenclature change?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Biggest news of the week is bad news for your Ohio State Fighting Buckeyes. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. Grant Gunnel, who was Ohio State's primary recruiting target for the 2019 class at quarterback. The primary quarterback target for the 2019 class is probably the more intelligent way of saying that. He has committed to Arizona. Arizona, who was not necessarily in the conversation early on, but Texas A&M was, and Kevin Sumlin, who was the coach at Texas A&M, is now the coach at Arizona. So you can see the thread here. This leaves Ohio State in a bit of a bind. This was Ohio State's, like I said, primary quarterback target for the 2019 class. And it is a class in which Urban Meyer has publicly stated is shallow at quarterback this year.
Yeah, not that many to really choose from. Both in talent-wise and what's out there still. A lot of the quarterbacks are currently committed right now, but that's not going to prevent Ohio State from looking at other currently committed quarterbacks that they've been keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, two of Ohio State's primary targets, now that Grant Gunnel is off the board, two of Ohio State's primary targets are already committed elsewhere.
Yep, I think the two that Ohio State's looking at is current Michigan State commit Dwayne Mathis and current Wisconsin commit Graham Mertz. But if I were to bet on one of these, if one of them is going to commit to Ohio State, my money would be more so on Graham Mertz at this point.
Well, and I would also say that if Ohio State got their pick of the two, it would also be Graham Mertz.
Agreed.
Yeah. So our new quarterback target that we will be focusing on is Graham Mertz. If it's not Graham Mertz, it's Dwayne Mathis. If it's not Dwayne Mathis, I don't know.
I don't think Ohio State's going for a quarterback then
I wouldn't say that.
Too. Well,
that goes against, I don't know. I think Urban is pretty set on getting a quarterback every year. So sure. I don't necessarily, I mean, we weren't talking about Doug Baldwin at this time last year. We'd never heard of Doug Baldwin at this time last year. I think they'll find their quarterback. It's just, sometimes you don't get the guy you want and you end up getting someone else, and that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you just have to look a little bit harder. That's how you end up getting guys, 3-star guys who contribute to your team later on. Let's not forget that Troy Smith, Heisman winner, Troy Smith was the other quarterback in his class. He was the 3-star other guy. They pick up 2 quarterbacks, I believe, in that class, and he was the other one. And I do believe, if memory serves, that JT Barrett was, of course, JT Barrett was still like I want to say the 10th ranked dual threat quarterback. So they didn't
something
really,
like that. Yeah.
They didn't, it's not like they went to the bottom of the barrel for JT Barrett by any means, but that, JT Barrett was not their first choice at quarterback. We'll see. We'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the quarterbacks and all that for just who's out there and all that. That's even Ohio State's even thinking about getting other than Graham or Dwayne. There really isn't anybody else that they're really targeting at this point right now. You got to go way down into the low 3 stars here if Ohio State's going to go for anybody else at this point.
We did a full quarterback review just a few episodes ago. The episode of the name of the episode, I can't talk this morning. I'm on 0 caffeine. I shouldn't do this podcast on 0 caffeine. That's a lesson I should have learned by now. We did a full episode talking about quarterbacks a couple weeks back. The episode's called Full-Time Quarterback. Many of you told me I should have named it All-Time Quarterback, and you're correct. Okay, you're right.
Yes. But
besides that, we did a whole thing, and most of that still will remain true, except for the fact that, as we've stated, Grant Gunnel is now off the board. A couple updates, other episodes we've talked about, offensive linemen in depth. Was it just last week, Kyle? We went in depth on both the offensive linemen and the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I believe so.
If it wasn't just last week, maybe it was. Anyway, doesn't matter. A couple updates on 2 of the guys we talked about. The number 2 offensive lineman in the number 2 offensive center in the entire country, Harry Miller, makes another visit to Ohio State this past weekend. The crystal ball prediction still being very, very kind to Ohio State in regards to Harry Miller.
And when you mean very kind, you mean all 14 predictions to Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. And, and if anyone, you can't, if you've listened to this show long enough, or if you've looked at, you can't get all freaked out. Oh, Ohio State has 100% in the crystal ball. And then you look and there's 3 votes. You know what I mean? Like you have to, but there's 14 votes, which lends more significance. And this is, I don't remember how many, but this is just the latest in a few visits, from Harry Miller. Before too long, you're starting to get excited that this is the next Ohio State center in Harry Miller. Another update, this time from a wide receiver. We talked about David Bell, who is from Indianapolis, Indiana. Is there any other Indianapolises? Indianapolis? I think it's Indiana.
I have no clue where you're going with this, Jared.
I don't either. For the record, neither do I. He is from Indianapolis. We'll just leave it at Indianapolis. Number 103 overall player in the country, 16th best wide receiver in the country, second best player from Indiana. He recently released a top 5, including Purdue, Iowa, Penn State, Indiana, and of course, your Ohio State Fighting Buckeyes. Now, you might take a look at that top 5 and ask yourself, well, who's Ohio State's primary competition? And your first instinct might be to say Penn State because, I'm going to say this nicely. Typically, Ohio State is not competing for the same players as Purdue, Indiana, and Iowa. Unless it's an offensive lineman who is literally from the state of Iowa. They're not normally competing for the same players. Ohio State and Penn State, however, constantly competing for the same players. But if we take a look at the crystal ball, and they're 10 votes in. 10 votes in on the crystal ball, so not overwhelming stuff. But 10 votes in on the crystal ball, and 60% of them have David Bell choosing Ohio State, and the 40% is to Purdue, not Penn State, not Notre Dame, who's not even in the top 5, but he's an Indiana kid. So yeah, it appears, if the crystal ball is to be believed, that the primary competition for David Bell is Purdue.
And as you mentioned, it is a little odd to see Purdue being up there, but it is in Indiana. And as you know, Purdue's right there in the competition for any Indiana football athletes there. But yeah, we'll keep it so. But we'll definitely keep an eye on him. I mean, he's right there, the almost top 100 nationally in terms of all athletes for this class currently. Believe that he'll be committing here. I didn't see when he'll commit here. Did you see a date yet, Jared?
I'm not aware of a rock solid time frame. No.
Okay. So he hasn't made his decision yet.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, I think we're just going to work off of the top 5 and maybe move on from there. All right. Since we're talking a bit of recruiting, Kyle, would you like to take a look at the current standings? And it's probably way, way too early to be doing this, but would you like to take a look at the current standings according to the 24/7 Sports Composite rating?
Sure. Ohio State, it seems like the theme for this year for Ohio State's recruiting class is slow and steady. Compared to past few years, it's been almost the opposite.
I wouldn't say so. I think Ohio State's always... I feel like at this point, last year we were talking about, well, Ohio State's down in the rankings, but if you look at the per player score, they were always like in the top 3.
Ohio State was, I believe, like last year we were talking about this, they were easily like top 7-5. But here, Ohio State is currently 12th right now, but their total average is, so I'm trying to rough estimate here, 1, 2, 3rd? Yeah, right there at 3rd as well. So per player, right where they were from last year. I'm just trying to look ahead here. Georgia has a ridiculous just under 96 average. Alabama, 93.5. Oklahoma has 92.2.
We don't have to read all of them, Kyle.
I know. I'm just looking here. Florida State 92.3 and Ohio State at 92.8. So.
Yeah, Georgia's off to another blistering class.
Yeah,
obviously very early. Their class last year was nuts. They're in the top 10 with only 8 committed players, and as Kyle just said, the per player average is psychotic. I mean, you look at some of the other teams up in like South Carolina. When was the last time the Gamecocks had a legit recruiting class? When was the last time the Gamecocks were legitimately good? Doesn't happen. So you're like, wow, look at South Carolina making moves. They're in the top 4. Yeah, except that they have 15 players committed, and they're surrounded by teams with less than that. I mean, they're only 2 spots ahead of Clemson, who only has 12, 3 spots ahead of Florida State, who only has 10. Once again, it's probably way too early to be looking at these rankings. I think the important thing to take away from these rankings right now, with Ohio State sitting at 12th, is that they're still, according to Kyle's rough estimate, in the top 3 per player. And that's what we're looking at here, per player. That's way more interesting than someone signing 28 kids and a bunch of them being 3 stars. If we're looking at per player, Ohio State's still in the top 3, which, again, is what's important to me. And they're 12th overall, but number 1 in the Big Ten, which maybe says more about the recruiting quality currently taking place in the Big Ten than it does about Ohio State's success. It's actually pretty embarrassing, to be honest with you. Let's go ahead and count this out. SEC, SEC, Big 12, SEC, ACC, ACC, Notre Dame, SEC, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10.
Get your shit together, Big 10 recruiting.
Yeah.
It can't just be Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan leading the way.
Yeah, sometimes Michigan?
They were first until just this week in the Big 10 in recruiting. They weren't first, but with the decommit that Michigan had this past week, that really hurt them and dropped them out to second in the Big 10. I think they are currently 14th from what I'm seeing at 24/7.
Yeah, and Kyle, of course, is talking about 4-star athlete Takoi Couch, who is from Hollywood, Florida, decommitted from Michigan this week. Not exactly sure what the situation is there. Haven't been following it that closely, but he's a 24/7 Sports top 250 player. I don't know. The Michigan class is what it is right now.
and this is odd. Like I'm looking at the timeline here. April 15th, he decommits from Tennessee to commit to Michigan that same day. And then less than 2 months later, he decommits from Michigan then. So I don't know what that says about the guy himself, or I don't know. But that's what he has there for the timeline, though. And in a 2-month span, he decommits from 2 schools.
Yeah, Michigan may have actually dodged a bullet on that one now that I'm thinking about it. All right, what else we got, Kyle?
Well, good news. It's 12 weeks until college football starts.
Yeah, I'm gonna accept that as good news. We count these things in weeks and not days because that makes it less sad.
Exactly, yes. So moving on from potential Ohio State players to former Ohio State players. James Laurinaitis will be joining the Ohio State Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2018 and will be inducted this September.
Congratulations to him, for sure.
Other former players, longtime former players here who are currently nominated to the College Football Hall of Fame class for 2019. They include Keith Byers, Jim Otis, and Chris Ward.
I think that's long overdue for Jim Otis, personally.
And Keith Byers, too.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say anything negative about Keith Byers by any means. By no means am I trying to say anything negative about Keith Byers. But I'm just saying, of the people on that list who I think should be, I'm putting Jim Otis as number 1 is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Some interesting quotes, speaking of former Buckeyes and future Hall of Famers. Joey Bosa had some interesting quotes about his brother Nick. He was on the... I don't remember what show it was, but he was on the NFL Network talking about his position in the top 100 NFL players, and the conversation turned to his brother Nick, and one of the NFL channel scouts said that Nick Bosa is one of the best pure pass rushers he has ever scouted. So they went to Joey Bosa for some commentary on his brother. Joey Bosa's quote is, "It's going to be scary." And then he went on to say that he is light years beyond where Joey Bosa was at that point in his career. I think he said at that point in college. Light years beyond any spot I ever got to in college is the exact quote.
And that is crazy to hear that, because you look at the stat wise, and obviously Nick doesn't have the stats that Joey currently does, but
that's not his fault.
That's not his fault. It's just because of the talent that was already established at Ohio State at that time. But now
that's Tyquan Lewis's fault, and that's Jalen Holmes, and yeah. But now
he's loose now. This is Bosa and Young show this year.
And I'm telling you right now, and I know we're all really excited for Chase Young. Please, everyone, stop sleeping on Jonathan Cooper.
Yes. Yeah. But
You're going to see Jonathan Cooper. I think you're going to see Nick Bosa play the exact number of snaps that he feels like playing. And then you're going to see a bit of rotation from Jonathan Cooper and Chase Young. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be fun. And it's really going to be fun because I think this is the best that Ohio State's defensive tackles have looked in a very, very long time. And that helps tremendously in scheming in how you can use your defensive ends. As far as if your defensive tackles are taking up more offensive linemen, then that allows for more one-on-one opportunities with your defensive ends. The rotation, because the defensive tackle room is so deep right now, they'll constantly have fresh defensive tackles in there. So if the defensive tackles are being disruptive, then that only benefits the defensive ends. I'm really very optimistic, and the defensive tackle position has basically been about a light year behind the defensive end position for a few years now, and I think that gap is closing, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Speaking of Joey Bosa, the NFL Top 100 was released recently, and of the top 108 of your former Buckeyes have made that list, including...
I just want to say that's the most of any college.
Yes, that too. Hashtag developed here from Ohio State. Leading the way is, again, Joey Bosa coming in at number 37. The also inspired Ryan Shazier coming in at 46, followed by his teammate Cam Hayward at 48. Zeke Elliott at 54. Can't guard Mike, or as we know, as Michael Thomas coming at 81, followed by his teammate Lattimore coming in at number 96 is Malcolm Jenkins, followed by Carlos Hyde at 97.
That's a pretty solid list. Of course, I'm a homer-ass Buckeye fan. I'm a fan, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I think all of them should be higher.
The one I think that should be a lot higher that stands out here is Michael Thomas, only at 81. I think if anybody should get a significant jump, it should be him.
Well, what you have to... Here's the dumb thing. You're ready for the dumb thing.
He's a wide receiver.
This list is... There's a lot of seniority on this list. You're talking about Michael Thomas, who's still pretty young in his career. He just completed his second season, correct? Marshawn Lattimore, still a rookie. Unless you're truly exceptional, the way Joey Bosa has been, then you're not going to crack that top 100, too deep into that top 100, I should say, right away. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of seniority involved with this list. So unless, like I said, you're truly exceptional right off the top, it's going to be really hard to, I'll say, break the top 50.
Well, here's another thing too. There could be potentially more in here too, as the NFL hasn't listed the 100 right here. They've only listed the top 31. So tune in on Monday. They're going to release 30 through 21.
Is there anyone?
That's what I'm thinking too, Jared. Is there anybody else Ohio State wise that could be in the top 30 there?
I think this
might be it, but
I don't know.
Oh, here, let's look at last year's list. Let me see any Ohio State players. Zeke was 7, so obviously he went back quite a bit, but a lot of that because of the
suspension
there. There's Drew Brees, not Ohio State. Ben Roethlisberger was 22nd in Ohio Miami native.
Also an Ohio native.
Yes.
Lima?
No, I don't.
Lima for Ben Roethlisberger, is that right? Or is it Finley?
Finley.
I always confuse those two.
Finley. No, I'm not seeing anybody else who is a top 30, and I'm kind of going through like top 50. I'm not seeing anybody else that Ohio State would have there. So I'd be surprised to see an Ohio State player in the top 30 here, but we'll see.
I feel like there is a singular player that we're forgetting. It's you know what? we'll just sound dumb. It wouldn't be the first time. If we're forgetting someone and you guys want to jump on Twitter and yell at us for being dumb, please go right ahead and do so. We're used to it, is basically what it boils down to.
Oh, there's a lot of players in here. I'm like searching, like, who's in the NFL right now for Ohio State? And then I'm just get this sorted by the letter O and looking, and there's a ton of players. I'm not going to try to go through and see which one it might be.
All right, Kyle, I have something else to talk about. This one's a surprise. I did not warn you about this one. You ready to have some fun?
Sure.
Okay. This is from 11warriors.com. They compiled a list of the most arrests at each Big Ten stadium.
Ooh, this is interesting. Okay.
Yes. Which Big Ten stadium do you think had the most arrests? And I want to say, for the record, it looks like Northwestern, Penn State, and Rutgers do not have numbers. If I'm looking at, 3 schools, meanwhile, this is from Dan Hope at 11warriors.com. 3 schools, meanwhile, cited state or federal exemptions in declining our request for data. Northwestern is private. Penn State, exempt from public record request. Rutgers cited exemption for providing public safety, criminal, blah, 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 blah. All right. Those 3 schools not in the equation.
Okay.
Who had the most arrests out of all of the Big Ten stadiums?
Most arrests. I'm going to say Michigan State.
Michigan State is second place.
Okay. Where does Ohio State come in?
Let's see. I don't have the ability to sort this. It's a graphic. Ohio State would come in at, it looks like, based on the data available, it looks like third. I'll say that there is a significant gap. There were 129 Michigan State arrests. There were 61 Ohio State arrests.
Okay, so half.
And the leader has 137.
Is it Michigan? I don't think they really arrest many people. I know they eject a lot of people, but
oh my God, Kyle! Really?
What?
No, that is so dead on.
Really?
Okay, so Michigan only has 15 arrests, but they are doing very, very well for themselves in the ejections list with 139.
Okay.
How did you know that? How is that information that was in your head?
Just odd tidbits I have in my head.
Obviously.
Is it Nebraska?
Nebraska apparently has a similar philosophy as Michigan. They only have 25 arrests, but 141 ejections.
I'm trying to go through.
And I also say that Michigan State does not apparently provide ejection numbers. They provided arrest numbers, but not ejection numbers.
You said Penn State doesn't. The only other one I could think of, just the sheer size, would have to be Wisconsin then.
Wisconsin, number 1, with 137 arrests.
Ooh.
Now, I want to say that Wisconsin is also leading the room in ejections with 167. Now, I appreciate what you were trying.
All that jump around, I guess.
Too much jumping around. That's definitely the problem. It's definitely not the beer. So you made a good observation in saying that you were going for the big number stadiums based off of attendance. Mm-hmm. But Dan Hope, once again, over at 11warriors.com, did the math for us. Mm-hmm. And he did this ejections per 1,000 people in attendance. And he did the same thing for the arrest.
Okay.
So we have an average to work off of here. And from an ejections standpoint, Wisconsin still wins. Apparently, for every 1,000 people who walk into Badger Stadium, 0.3 0.03 of them get ejected from the stadium, which is number one by a lot. Yeah, by a lot. Nebraska comes in second in the average rating. Michigan comes in third, I believe. Yeah, and so the good news here, if you're Ohio State and you're wanting Ohio State to do poorly in these numbers, is, you know, if we're going by golf, scores. Ohio State only has another sport we don't talk about. Ohio State has a 0.081 in arrest and a 0.032 in ejections, both of which are pretty good.
I can think of somebody who should be ejected from the stadium, but in every game. But
I think there's about 3 of them, if memory serves.
So 3 times 7. I'm fine. I'm fine adding an extra 21 in there. So
yeah, it's fine. I mean, you could arrest them, and then it just done after that, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Just gotta do it the one time. But yeah, those are the arrest and ejection numbers. Bottom line here, Wisconsin, at least among the people reporting numbers, appears to be, I would say, the most dangerous of the stadiums in the Big Ten.
The Big Ten leaders and legends of arrests and ejections.
No, well, Wisconsin's the leader. Penn State is legend. That's a horrid place to be. Just because they aren't reporting numbers is the only reason why I think they're not more involved in this conversation.
All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Anything else football related that we got on the list here?
No, I told you we squeezed every ounce of blood from this week. I was talking about arrest records, for God's sakes.
You want some good news here that a certain Ohio State athletic club hasn't seen in 25 years?
Lord, yes. Give me some good news.
Zach Bizzell.
Who?
Who? Exactly. Nobody, the 99% of Ohio State fans would not know this person, including myself. But
I would say it's... never mind. Go ahead.
Zach Bizzell, who's a long jump athlete for the Ohio State Track and Field Club, won Ohio State's very first national championship event since 1993. He jumped almost 27 and a half feet, just blew everybody else away from, which blew everybody else from that competition. Second place jumped 26 and a quarter feet. So he jumped almost a whole foot and a quarter longer than anybody else. And anybody who knows track and field, that is ridiculous, especially at a championship level here. Jumping by over a foot, that's almost unheard of.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm honestly not expecting you to know the answer, but then again, you knew the ratio of ejections versus arrest at Michigan Stadium, so maybe you might surprise me again.
I'll try my best.
Okay. Not to mention, you were killing it on the guesses last week, too, with the draft spreadsheet. You've been very impressive the past couple weeks. I just want to say that.
And also 3-0 in the sloop picks.
Shut up. See, just when I was starting to like you.
Gotta reel you back in a little bit here, so.
Okay. And I know this is going to be a difficult question to answer because we use feet, and internationally they use metric. What's a 27? Like how good is that from a? I mean, he was the best in college. Does a jump like that qualify him for like Olympic consideration?
He get a look at. Definitely. I'm drawing a blank on how,
because consistency matters and everything else. It's not necessarily about one big jump and that gets you onto the Olympic team by any means. But and if you don't know the answer, that's fine.
No, I don't. I'm drawing a blank here. Let me do a quick math here.
Kyle is going to do a quick math, and I'm going to talk. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. I'm really just trying to fill dead space while Kyle does math. I was really hoping that by now, during my talking, that I was going to think of something clever.
Right, you ready?
Yeah,
You ready?
God, yes, am I ready?
So you jump 27.5 feet, which is about 8.38 meters.
Okay.
The winner for the 2016 Olympics in Rio, 8.38.
So yeah, I would say that gets him some consideration.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And second place was 8.37, and the bronze was 8.29. Which, by the way, the winner of the long jump was a U.S. Olympic athlete, Jeff Henderson.
There you go. Learning all sorts of things today.
Also, good news. Ohio State finished second in the 4x1. Ran a pretty good time of 38.75, and lost. And they were way out in the 8th lane, which is the far lane, so you don't see anybody. That's the dead zone for the like the 4x1 and the 4x2 as well. That 8th lane is just dead zone. You don't have anybody to compare yourself how fast you're going or anything. You just hope to God that you're running as fast as you can, and you come to that last stretch and you're in front of everybody else. Then that last stretch, Ohio State was just behind one team, and that was Houston in the fastest heat lane 4, and they won with a new collegiate and NCAA meet record of 38.17, which is just smoking. You won by over half a second. You smoked.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are enjoying track and field talk, but I'm sure that there's a small percentage of them who are just in love right now.
Yes.
So we're serving the minority today, and I'm okay with that. Kyle would honestly talk track and field 100% of the time if I let him.
Yes. So that puts Ohio State finish tied for 12th overall, which, I mean, Ohio State's not known for track and field, but tied for 12th in the men's track and field. And I believe I saw that Georgia won the men's and USC won the women's.
Yes.
There were some,
I'm going to say yes, like I know.
Yes,
Kyle, that is absolutely what happened, and I'm certain of that.
There were some great races there. So if you are into track and field, check out some of the races, especially the women's 4x4. That one was very entertaining to watch.
All right, so I think that's it for our Ohio State talk. I think that's probably it for the show. Once again, not necessarily interested in wasting your time, so we'll pull up a bit short on this one, and that's okay. Want to encourage everyone to check out sloopcast.com, where there's stuff. You find our social media stuff. You can find out how to donate to the Sloopcast. You can find stuff there. That's it. Also want to encourage everyone to check out theozone.net for all of the latest news in regards to anything, everything under the sun involving Ohio State. Want to encourage everyone to give us a follow on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter, where we are at Sloopcast on all of those things. You can follow my personal account, which I am tweeting out of more nowadays. You can follow that account at Jared Ohio. And if you want to maybe learn some stuff about the local music scene in Columbus, which if you're not paying attention is fantastic right now. And if you want to learn more, or if you're interested, or if you just want to listen to my music ramblings, you can give me a follow at 7071 Music on Twitter. And hey, if you're really that interested, you can check out 7071 The Music Podcast, which I also host. Like, realistically, it's just a lot of music. So if you just like music, forget geography, forget everything else. I'm playing some really good music over at the 7071 podcast if you wanna give us a check out. And donations, you can send us money. If you send us at least $10, we will send you Sloopcast swag. Other stuff that I'm forgetting about, rate and review us on Apple Podcast or wherever else you can rate and review a podcast. And as always, you can send us your questions on Twitter using Ask Sloopcast, or you can always send us an email, sloopcast@gmail.com. All right, Kyle, that's all I feel like saying today. What's in Kyle's corner?
Your favorite local soccer team, the Columbus Crew. They were down a couple of people because of being called up to the U.S. men's national team, but pulled out a tie over the New York Red Bulls 1-1 over Saturday, and that leads to being undefeated the past 9 games for the Crew. Most of them being ties, though, but undefeated, though, getting at least 1 point in the past 9 games.
And where are we at on the Save the Crew front?
A lot of news this weekend. I'm sure you're well aware of it too, Jared. But
I am, but you know more than I do, so I'm going to let you talk about it.
I'm still debating whether. I mean, obviously, it's really good news, but who knows?
How good a news? Yeah. Is it a nail in the coffin of the Crew to Austin,
or is this just a
setback?
Just a setback for the Snake. So the Austin City Council reviewed Precourt's, I almost want to say demands, but his proposal.
Proposal is what he called it. If you actually saw what he was proposing, it sounded an awful lot like demands.
Yeah. Pretty much the city council viewed Precourt's plan as a, quote, massive giveaway. Pretty much that in the proposal, he wanted to rent out or lease out the stadium for $1 a year. So that would be like $21 total that he would have to pay the city of Austin. That everything would be tax-free, and he would have full use over the stadium, and the city would have very limited use of it.
Yeah, and since then, someone else has come in with a proposal of what to do with the land. It's sort of a mixed use development, and they're not asking to pay $1 a year for it.
And it's a lot further from downtown than where the Crew Stadium is relative to the Columbus's downtown as well.
Yeah, so once again proving what we all knew all along, which is the I want to be close to downtown thing was just a farce.
The City Council of Austin also stated that Precourt's tactics was like a used car salesman approach.
And it's nice to have a second city on board with that opinion.
Yes. So with that, looks like Precourt's kind of rumored, again, don't know if any of this is true, but there's a lot of rumors going around.
All the other stuff was true. We want to say that. All that other stuff was true. What's coming up is a rumor.
Precourt is in talks with Sacramento to get a team over in Sacramento. Sacramento is not looking to try to relocate, but more so of being one of the next
expansion teams.
Expansion teams, yes. So that kind of, again, it's just how this snake is slithering his way to try to get out of Columbus. That's ultimately what all of this is here, and he's trying to not have to spend any more of his daddy's money to get a team outside of Columbus, because he's looking to move the team to Austin so he doesn't have to spend the $10 million for an expansion rights for a new team. He wants to get that for free to move. He wants a stadium for free. He doesn't want to have to pay taxes. He just wants everything for free and just gobble up money.
That sounds about right. And hopefully he ends up selling the team. And I still really like Brewdog's proposal, which involved Brewdog, which is an Irish brewery who has since made Columbus their stateside home. If you guys don't know about Brewdog, they built a big facility down in Canal Winchester. They just built a beautiful tap room in Franklinton, and they're kind of about crowdfunding. That's sort of their thing. And they put out a proposal a while back in which they would buy the Crew and then sell it back to the city of Columbus. And by the city of Columbus, I don't mean the government, I mean the people. So it's a real, Green Bay Packer situation. I don't know if such a thing's even allowed by MLS bylaws. I couldn't tell you. But it would be really cool. And by the way, they make a damn fine beer. You see that, Brewdog? You could be sponsoring this podcast. I'm a fan of you.
Got you one freebie there.
That's a freebie. No more freebies, Brewdog.
Everyone gets one. Maybe not everyone, but
we're Spider-Man is basically what we're trying to say right now. Is that it, Kyle? Is that the end of the episode?
That's all I got here.
Okay, so I guess that's it. I guess that's the end of the episode. And we are continuing on with Hip Hop January. We are doing, today, we are featuring rapper, I believe, from the city of Cleveland. I hope that's correct. I forgot to look it up. Archie Green. Archie Green is the name of the rapper. The name of the song is Layers. So with that being said, with it being Hip Hop January, with it being Hip Hop June, did I say January the first time too, Kyle?
I think you did.
Oh my God. I need caffeine in my system.
Let us not set this back any further.
No, we're just moving forward. That's all we're doing. All we can do is move forward, Kyle. It's the only option we have. Hip Hop June. Hip Hop January does have a better sound to it. It has a better ring. I might have to remember that for next January. This is Hip Hop June, however. God. Get me out of this podcast. Help. Once again, this is rapper Archie Green. The name of the song is Layers, Layers. And with that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to listen to local music, drink local beer, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Archie Green.
Peel them layers back. For me, music is therapeutic. That's why I use it. Helps me break these nightmares down that are lucid. Don't wanna lose it. Pour it all out in my MacBook until it turns to the fact book. Let's talk facts. My life was very dark. Moved it with my sister. Was smooth at the start. No interruptions from art, except a little beagle's bark. You could say it was a walk in the park. Except that elephant that no one else could see. I was broken in stock speed till she helped me to my feet. Finally got a job, but freedom was still robbed. You see, the court paper said I couldn't really drive that far. You ask why it is that Archie was depressed for over a fucking year. My life was lifeless. Don't want to see me cry when my wayfarer's at. My doctor said it gets better soon as I peel them layers back. So peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Soon as I peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Doctor said it gets better soon as I peel them layers back. Now this is a common story of a GUI that once drank too much, got a DUI. My 2 degrees ain't mean shit to the judge. A Bret Hart of an example, the best that ever was. License suspension meant lifeless suspension. Couldn't go nowhere unless my niggas going there. Too embarrassed to call, isolated from them all. My social interaction was my job at the mall. The sis got pregnant, boyfriend moved in. I was still a resident, but only in my room then. I have to say that prayer. My sis, my ex, my doctor, all the reasons I'm still here to confess that underneath these smiles and pictures of success, it's nothing but a beautiful mess. I said that underneath these smiles and pictures of success, it's nothing but a beautiful mess. Now watch me peel them layers back. So peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Peel them layers back. Soon as I peel them layers back. Peel them layers back.